Hello, I'm Adam Watt, and this is my reflection on my ECS 210 journey. I arrived in September as a BEAD student who thought curriculum was topics to cover in a class. A peer sitting beside me had an answer that was something along the lines of, a curriculum is the values and interests the state wants students to learn. I immediately and viscerally understood this to be true. My arrival in September isn't really the start of this educational journey, though. In the decade since my last degree, I've read lots of news from as many sources and perspectives as I could. I learned that I'm cisgendered. I learned about my white privilege. I learned about my male privilege. I learned about residential schools, the 60s scoop, the millennium scoop, drinking water advisories, cultural appropriation, and intergenerational trauma. I learned about Black Lives Matter, carding, some experiences of living with disabilities, wealth inequality, Idle No More, Occupy, and water protectors. I learned about so much more than my own perspectives and experiences. So I entered ECS 210 with a social justice understanding which I feel has been beneficial to my participation and reflections, but I had no understanding of curriculum. I wasn't even aware the Saskatchewan curriculum was available online. I hadn't considered curriculum before ECS 210, but I learned quickly and I'm not opposed to the concepts being presented. In fact, they align well with my interests and motivations. I had no trouble realizing how and why each student's context is important and why I need to examine unspoken assumptions. I see the benefits and detriments of the Tyler rationale, how it affected nearly all of my education, and how it continues to affect education. I built on previous understandings about privilege, and some discussions went deeper than I'd previously encountered or considered. Some discussions, though, didn't go very far at all. I really would have liked to learn more about the differences, roles, and influences of private schools. My future learning is going to include information about private Catholic Reserve and other schools or systems. I put significant thought into the autonomous and ideological models, yet even with the reading, looking at other sources, and having discussions with Stacey and Allison, I'm not confident in my understanding on these concepts. Something else I'm still working on is whether the inclusion of Benjamin Levin's writing involved a message about sources. I didn't find him to be as insightful as the other readings we did, and given the nature of his crimes, it seems like there should have been a very good reason to assign anything he wrote. My approach to curriculum is going to be different than I would have explained 3 months ago. I will be better able to articulate my reasons for my approaches and methods, and I will be able to find connections to the curriculum. But the attitude I had regarding social justice has only been reinforced by ECS 210. I take a broad definition of social justice and very much will strive for an anti-oppressive space in my classroom. As a privileged white male, it is not my perspective that needs voicing, but I am able to support other voices. I can share videos, articles, and books with my students. I can bring in guests to share their perspectives. My classes and I can participate in ceremonies and activities, and I can connect these to the curriculum, even when that curriculum is high school sciences. The posters in my room will include one showing the difference between equality and equity. The questions on assignments and tests will include diverse names, genders, and worldviews as part of the situations. I understand that the curriculum shown on the Government of Saskatchewan website is just one aspect of curriculum, and I will work hard to ensure that all my students benefit from the other aspects of curriculum, that disadvantages are not left to fall on any particular group or person, and that the hidden curriculum is less hidden. I will seek to find out what my students consider relevant and useful to learn, so that we can all participate, and so that my students won't be confined to my interpretation of what curriculum should include. I genuinely learned from this class and appreciate each of the profs in lecture and seminar. We did curriculum critiques though, so I'd like to engage in a reflection of this class in light of what I learned in it. Of all my classes, only one professor acknowledged being on Treaty 4 territory. It was my ESI 302 prof, Jesse Bazul. I consider this to be important to do and was surprised it didn't happen in ECS 210. All of our lectures and seminars for ECS 210 were held indoors, which didn't seem to be making re-inhabitation efforts. I again must credit Jesse on having done this multiple times. The Treaty Education Conference and the Treaty Education Camp were both very important experiences, and I'm glad ECS 210 encouraged our attendance. Camp specifically made an effort to change structures regarding the free to come and go aspect of how afternoon sessions were conducted. There was also an element of relationship between the professors and students that wasn't only due to class discussions. The introductions made in the first lecture contributed to that, and was a departure from how most of the profs in my previous degree did things. An emphasis on relationships is one of the aspects I admire most in Indigenous worldviews, and is something I'm weak at and need to work on so that I can model it for my students. I can start by including a longer, more personal introduction as was done in ECS 210. Thank you for the experiences I had in ECS 210 lectures, seminars, and group work.
Created using Powtoon.